thank you so much for coming to our SEO session today. My name is Lindsay Valdez, and I work for She Media Partner Network. I'm the Director of Audience Development, and a large part of that has to do with SEO. So my day-to-day job includes working with bloggers to grow their audience and grow their traffic and revenue. And what better audience to talk to about that than you guys? Bunch of bloggers. Love to see you all out there. All right, I'm going to jump in because I've got a lot to cover. Get your notebooks out. All right, so what I'm going to be talking about today is a lot of content. If you had to ask me what SEO was, and it gets technical, and so many times people are discouraged by it. It's just too much to kind of figure out. If I had to describe SEO, modern day SEO, in a few words, it would be user experience and content. And if nothing else, those are the two things that you really need to understand when you're talking about your website and your blog. All right, so I'm going to kind of do a manual thing where I'm telling him to keep going. But this is, I talk about different SEO best practices that and UX best practices that also happen to increase your revenue. One thing you'll see on the slide a lot is a number called RPM, which is the revenue you make per every 1,000 ad impressions on your site. So for the purpose of this, you can just say, think of it as your revenue. All right, so you can skip another. All right, so like I just said, I work with bloggers all the time, every day, and if I can tell them one thing, it's always that you should be focusing on great content. When you get into the technical stuff and social and things like that, especially the technical, it can get really confusing, and then people get overwhelmed nonstop with how much there is to do well in search, that your focus as bloggers really should be creating great content. And Google's algorithm right now, it's in a way where it can be forgiving on some of the factors that you probably hear about a lot. I've had a dry throat. Apologies. You probably hear about page speed a lot, right? That's like a go-to right now, and that does count on the side of user experience. You want a fast website and all these things. But Google will give allowances in certain areas if your content is literally better than anybody else's. So that is the number one thing that Google is looking for right now. When you are producing high-quality content, your users learn to grow and trust you. And especially in a space where I'm trying to balance talking about high-quality content with ad impressions and ads, it's that balance. Ads slow down websites, and they can be overdone in a way that makes your quality it drives your users away. And that's the very last thing you want to do. In no way should your user come at the expense of your ad impression. If you're thinking of building a blog that's going to be around in 5-10 years, you really have to prioritize the user. Quality content also helps your RPM, your revenue. As you're creating this consistent content, your users will continue to scroll down the page, they'll look more, they just become your loyalists. They go from casual readers to really loving your brand and your website. I loved listening to Sonia Razula up here a couple panels ago talk about how important the website is and how often it's on the back burner. I talk to people all the time that are writing one post a month and doing things like that, when it really is what you own, and it is sort of the hub of your brand and where you really need to dedicate some time and focus to as well. So when you are focused above all else on producing a quality blog post, and this means every single time you post. This is not sort of get it up as fast as you can. I mean quality content every single time. You got to understand your audience and write what you know that they would love. Content should always be useful and usable. If you're just starting out your blog, think about in 10 years from now and the sort of posts. I talk about it all the time now where it's like, ew, old blog posts, like back in the day when you first started, like what the quality of those were. We're going to talk about a strategy to address those in a minute, but every single post should be created really high quality. Affiliate programs is something that probably a lot of you do. Affiliate programs are not penalized by Google on their own, although if you are using affiliate programs, you really need to make that value even greater for them, because Google sees it as you're making money, they get that, but if it's just a page of affiliate links, that's not quality content. Quality content really means picking a topic and building it out with tons of great supporting content. All right, so I'm going to walk through the process, because the question I get is what is quality content? What does that mean? So this is how I talk to bloggers about writing a web post. We will put this, I'll find a way to get this on blogher.com for anyone who can't see the slides in the back, or you can also hunt me down and I can get you a copy of it. So you have your blog, you have your niche, you have fashion, food, whatever that might be. It's really important to stay as relevant to that space as possible. Google's gotten to a place where they really focus on expertise and authority. And you as bloggers should be very passionate about especially, we've heard about it all day today, being really passionate about what you write about. Very important. And if you're covering a wide range of topics, you see this on lifestyle sites a lot, where there's 30 different subcategories and things like that. Try to find your niche. I would recommend that as far as what you're writing about. So once you will obviously know the niche of your blog, you choose that topic. You should have experience in the topic, or have a writer write it that does have experience. That's something that's come into the picture in the last 3 years with Google, where they really got into a place where people were questioning the results that they put at the top. All of a sudden, people cared about, do you trust this website? And I think more than ever before, I'm at least who is your source? Where did this information come from? And readers are getting savvy, and they're going to understand that as well. So whatever it is you're writing, some criteria has less strict standards. If you're not a doctor and certain medical, if you needed a degree to get the website, to get into your field on your website, you should have actual doctors writing it and things along those lines. Keyword research, this would be step 2 for me if I was writing a blog post. You should use volume if you do use any tools, which one good brainstorming tool is answerthepublic.com. It's really great. It's free. You could put in a base topic, answerthepublic.com, put in a base topic, and it will return to you all the different things that have search volume. So once you know that sort of angle you're going to write, it is important to at least understand directionally what about it is of people's interest, right? You need to write naturally, and at one point there was a time where it was more about getting a keyword on the page 5 times. That's old SEO. You do not ever need to worry about getting sort of that keyword on the page, but your whole page should tie up to one relevant topic. So use variations of that keyword. Use variations of how people would talk about that. Once you've picked the angle, which you should go for long tail keywords. Long tail is anything that's 3, 4, 4, 5, sort of a phrase kind of when it comes to what you want to rank for. Think about what people would search for your piece of content to come up in the search results. It's getting more and more competitive, as you guys know. There's so many blogs, so many publishing sites that you really have to make sure that you're writing a post that your users will love, that's good quality. Grammar and spelling matters. That's a big deal. Even if your readers kind of get it, Google associates the sort of, having it be edited for grammar and spelling. They will sort of connect the two as low quality. Everything you should be doing needs to really be focused on high quality. And then an SEO checklist. I go into this a little bit later, but every blog post you probably have heard about SEO titles and meta descriptions and these sort of fields. Who's using WordPress? How many people use WordPress for their website? Okay, I ask that question every time. It's majority, but I know it's not everybody, so I won't speak solely to it. But if you're using WordPress and you're using an SEO plugin, such as Yoast is probably the one I would recommend if you're looking for one. This gives you the like SEO fields that you need to fill out, which is the title, meta description, your images, your image alt text, and an optimized slug, which is the last part of your URL. And then I want to call out image quality is more important than ever. And this is great for you guys because it's so, bloggers typically are, especially women. It's fashion, it's food, it's recipes, it's parenting. It's such an image-friendly environment that people are really, it adds value to your blog post. And Google has come around in the last probably year to talk about how important image quality is on your website. Unsplash, if you've heard of that one, there's some like really good free non-stocky. They're not stocky in the way that they used to be. There's some good options for images, and pay attention to it because Google is also correlating images with quality. All right, next I'm going to talk about long-form content. This is it's in the She Media Partner Network. When I talk to bloggers, this is one of the least favorite things for me to talk about. Is it's hard to write a blog post that is 1,000 words, right? Like it depends on what you're writing about, for sure. And sometimes 500 might be enough. 500 words could be good enough for sort of entertainment space, stuff that's not as in depth. But Google values long-form content, and long-form content will help SEO and your audience and your revenue in 3 different ways. A lot of posts, I say, should be in the 800 to 1,200 range. If you're writing about health topics, if you're writing about financial things of that nature, you should definitely have a good page before publishing it. Your RPM will increase on long form because think about engagement. That's another thing I'm going to talk about a lot here, is that engagement metrics really play into the algorithm now, much more than they used to, and that is not just, when you're looking at your data in GA, that is not just page view sessions. It's time on page, time on site, bounce rate, pages per session, how many pages, all of these signal Google to tell them that a user likes it. Google is a product, if you think about it, right? Their sole intention is to provide you, the user that decided to use their search engine for your query, getting them the very best answer. And so when it comes to your RPM, you're going to make more. It's more ad impressions. The ads will refresh. All of those things also improve when you are writing long-form content. All right, so my next trick here is really good. Is really good. I've gotten into it more in the last few months. But mobile-first indexing. I don't know how many people have heard that term. Google used to rank and essentially grade your website based on how it looked on a desktop. Now, obviously, so many more people are seeing your site on your phone. So there's lots of cool things you can do to sort of kill 2 birds with 1 stone in the sense of making your user experience on mobile very friendly and also making more money from that. And one way is by breaking up your content. Have you gone to your phone just to see like these giant blocks of content with like small font, right? I don't know about you, but it definitely deters me from reading that page. This is such like a no-brainer, and I see people doing it all the time, even big brands, where they have the smallest font and don't break up any paragraphs. This is a bad thing for users, I would say, first. But just think about how much easier it is to read on a mobile screen when the font's a little bigger and it's broken up. So I would say your paragraph should be between like 2 to 3 sentences before just giving it a little break. It kind of makes these like digestible little pieces of content. Users will continue to read, and you will be able to show them more impressions and more page views. Users on mobile, the experience is altogether different than desktop, right? Usually people skim. People usually only read 20 to 30% of what you wrote. They're quickly scrolling to find, what of their search query matches your article that they clicked on to get the information that they need and then move on. And they're very intentional in their search. So when you can make sentences easy to read, paragraphs should be 3 to 5 sentences. You can break them up. It's a much better user experience, and Google also sees those metrics as well. All right, so this is kind of an extension of what I just talked about. Here's an example. Look at, it just between the two, right? It's just a huge example of what you're sort of encouraged to read, something that's user-friendly and easy to get through. When they can consume more of it, this leads to more page views for your site and more engagement metrics, higher engagement metrics. Spacing out your lines is another tip. So this can all be done. This would be like a one-time sort of adjustment made to your WordPress theme or your website theme. Changing the font to maybe 14, 16. This one over here is 12. It's really small for a mobile screen. And just by increasing that, I've seen some 16 font looks a little large. It's getting on the large size, but 14 to 16 is recommended for the best user experience on mobile. And then your line spacing, just give a little more padding and buffer. It's easier to read. People will read more of it, and it continues to increase your traffic. All right, so this is heading tags. Is something that you might have already heard about because it's always been an SEO thing where they would tell you to add an H1 tag or an H2 tag, things like this into your copy. You can usually highlight it, format it real simple in whatever CMS you're using. When you add headings to posts, it's a really great, so in helping bloggers with the partner network, you also want to tell them also how to optimize better for their revenue and for their ads. And sometimes I'll see great posts that aren't even monetized. There might be one ad unit on the page. Heading tags kind of give this natural break in your body, especially. This is really important because on desktop, you have that ad placement in your right rail sometimes, right? That's very common, can make a lot of money from that. But on mobile, you lose those side columns in the first place. So where are you supposed to put your ads? We are very careful not to overdo it with the ads. It does slow down your site. It's also just a bad user experience. Think of your users, and they don't want to see paragraph ad, all the way down the page. That said, you can easily, be on the aggressive side with several ad units, 2 or 3, depending on the length, of course, of your blog post. And headings are a perfect break for that. It's not like, a reader halfway through a paragraph and then seeing an ad and, breaking it up that way. Heading tags are also a great way to just format your copy. Going back to the long form content, if you have a post that's really long, you need to organize it. And knowing that users only skim through, what a great way to sort of break out your posts so they can skim to get what they're looking for. You can add an extra ad impression. You can win on the user experience by breaking it up that way. But it also just totally helps organize your blog post. Sometimes you'll see people use it for formatting, because when you do highlight it, it makes it bigger. That's not exactly the main purpose. Don't overuse heading tags. If you have a lot of heading tags, so think of those as just the sections. You have this main overarching topic, and then you have little subsections. When you're overusing them, if you do notice, it might be a chance to get a second blog post out of it. If you do have a easier time writing really long posts, and you're covering almost multiple topics, consider breaking that out into a new post. Typically, Google wants the user to get everything they need out of your post, or at least out of your website. So if they go to a blog post and you have one topic and it's broken up in many ways and you can kind of feed them to the next related article, that's another great way to keep the user on the page. So if you see a ton of headings, you might want to break it up. All right, next I'm going to talk about diversifying your content. This is a really important one, as Google's getting better and better at understanding things outside of just text. And this for a long time, right? They can't see video, they can't see images, they can't hear podcasts and all these things. But they are getting better at understanding what you're offering your user on the page. And so many times I see in the top rankings, it's not just content. There's always a video, some how-to content. How-to, if you're writing an article that covers that, might be better with an infograph. Think about video. If you don't already have a video strategy, this is a great place to focus on. especially coming up on Q4. It's a great time to make money on your blog, and videos often yield a higher RPM. If you are not already, if you're running that now, you'll know it. But you can definitely make more money on video advertising than general. And people sometimes think that it's just too much to do a video strategy. I couldn't think of, you know, a shoot and having somebody come in and who's going to do all, and it's expensive. So there's two tools that are really popular right now. They're DIY video makers. They're called Biteable and Animoto. Animoto is my favorite of the two. Very cheap. And it allows you to make your own. It's like drag and drop videos, and it kind of can highlight your other content. They look professional, they look interesting, and it kind of adds just another asset to keep your reader on the page for even longer. And again, going back to those metrics, right? It goes back to the users. How much can you give them to make it more interesting for your user? Helps those engagement metrics. And you don't even have to have video content to generate video revenue necessarily. It's a better user experience if you do. But at She Media, I know we have, we can set up the technology just to sort of run those ads for you in the bottom corner. They typically perform better if the user is watching to view like the next video. And then images. Images really need to be responsive. This is something as mobile's gotten more important, people move to responsive websites. Every one of you have probably heard that, as far as like it has to fit a device and change to the screen. And then they'll leave images not responsive. So that's where you see on mobile the sort of heads cut off. I see it all the time. But on desktop, it looks great. So you really need images to be responsive as well. There's plugins in WordPress that'll do this for you. And a lot of times, bloggers who are taking photos from your phone, this is where I see it the most. If you're not compressing those, it really kills your page speed, and it really kills your the responsive. They don't shrink as well, they don't adjust as well. So images really should be responsive. There's a few plugins. Have an alt text. Alt text on your images should just be exactly what it is. It's like the most simple thing of SEO, and yeah, I see it all the time wrong, where people put their article headline in the alt text and things like that. It just really should be what it is of. And Google is actually, now it's really cool, in image search, you used to have to like click and then click again, and then eventually you'd get over to the website. And now they're making it much more seamless. It's like a one-click over. So that's important. It's important that your assets are driving your own traffic to your site. Images, there's next-gen image formats. It's something that's newer. We have .jpeg, things like that. And WebP is a really big one right now. That's Google's image platform. If you're looking for how to really optimize your images, that's a good one. And if you're struggling with page speed, that'll help out there as well. Diversifying your content helps your SEO in the sense that Google really is choosing results that offer added value to the reader. So that's one way that it helps the SEO of your pages. Your audience loves them. There's much higher engagement metrics when it comes to video and some images as well. Pin graphics, that's a really good one, or infographics, sorry, that can keep a user on the page a little longer. And then your RPM, like I said, video content typically yields way higher RPMs, and that when you do, it's just more interesting, right? If you're just a text, like people on text, people will leave much sooner. The bounce rate is typically at least 40% higher when it comes to just static pages. The next thing you want to make sure that your posts have are internal links. Linking has always been really focused on by SEO. It used to be the #1 thing to rank high was how many other websites were linking to you. It still carries a lot of weight with Google, but not as much weight as it used to, and quality content is higher than that now, and internal links are getting more and more important for several reasons. Google is giving link credit to rank higher for in the search engines when you do have internal links. It's not quite as high as if you get a good quality link from another site. They view those as like votes of trust in a way when other links or other sites are linking to yours. This is an example from Stylecaster. They've always done really great with adding internal links to our own pages. I would say add at least, don't overdo it. That's one thing. You can see, tons of links on the page is also not good. Make sure you're opening, if you're linking out to a site that's not yours, this I'll see a lot when you're citing or sourcing another site wherever you got that information from. Make sure that link opens in a new tab, because otherwise you're just taking people right off of your website. But on internal, it's okay. It's okay to keep them on the site. Link to other related posts. This is great. You have a reader who's entered from the search engines to your post. They're interested in that topic. Navigate them directly to the next post. Like, what else do you have about that topic that the reader might find interesting? All right, so I'm going to go through a few steps for content strategy, especially when I'm speaking here specific to seasonal content. We're in Q4. It's a great time to be a blogger when you can write about really fun stuff like gift guides and dessert recipes. But one thing that's really important is to understand your sort of content inventory. And depending on how long you've been blogging, this could be anywhere from a couple hundred posts to thousands of posts. And you have to understand that Google views the whole site when it comes to the health of your presence in the search results. So if you have forgotten, or the quality that you were writing in the very beginning is different, there's some things that you can do. But first, have that sort of content inventory. Understand as best as possible what you have. When you wrote about something, if it's an evergreen topic and you wrote the best gifts for Mother's Day, and the next year comes around, you do not need to add a new one, right? You can just update your old posts. So having an idea of what angles you've covered in the past, it's always been a challenge with me when I was working on sheknows.com, some of our big O&Os, was that we would post things that we'd already had 3 other copies of, from years back. And the thing is that Google sees it all. So they understand that now you have 3 pieces covering the same thing. So just be really careful about covering angles one time, and then keeping them updated is a really good tactic. Some tools that I use to help, no, you're fine, to help think of topics to write about, Google Trends, and then even better than that, though, is Pinterest Insights. Pinterest is really just a visual search engine. It's great for blogs. It is. I could talk about Pinterest just as much as SEO on how the potential to drive traffic is from that right now. And they have really great PDFs that they'll send out that tells you about the trending topics of what's popular this year. If you haven't signed, definitely a newsletter you should sign up for. And then we publish our own learnings content, our own trending topics on BlogHer.com. It's one of my most popular sort of interests of partners in our network when I work with them is, what do you write about? What, just get to that point where it's a struggle to understand what next in certain times. So you have these tools that you can use. Updating your top performers. One thing here, I already talked about it just a little, but test first. I always would say that to somebody. Test 1 or 2 pieces. Update the headline a little. Google's fickle, and you can really, if you're ranking for something, number 1, it's your best blog post on your site, you really don't touch it, kind of thing. But if you do have some posts that are a little lower risk, you should update them, especially if they're outdated content. Double check that the year and the date has been updated as well. It's also a great way to just introduce more content into your editorial calendar. The bandwidth you guys have writing blogs, especially if there's only one of you, is hard. So using your old content, recycling it, making it better is a great strategy. All right, and I will end on this slide. It is my favorite and probably the most successful between editorial teams and individual bloggers strategy that we use, and it's called content clusters. That's how we refer to it internally here. Use your data. Use your data to understand what posts and what posts are driving you traffic, and also what is your most popular sort of interest on your website, and then build that out. Think of all the different angles and things. I used Halloween decor here as an example, but all these different sort of angles can tie together, link them together, and that is really the way to grow authority and grow your footprint in Google, is by understanding what sort of topics within your own niche you're doing well in, and then make more of that content. Okay, do we have time for questions? Do we want to go? Go ahead. For the linking? Yeah. How would you advise someone to get other brands linking to your brand? That's a really good question. So link building is the official term for it, and how you would be going out to sites. The old tactic was really to go out to websites and kind of ask for those posts and ask for those link backs. I would say partnerships is a really great one, and guest posts. If it's somebody you trust, and can sort of write for each other, link for each other, build relationships with other people that are writing the content like yours, and get those links naturally. Never buy them. Things like that will definitely get you penalized in Google. But I would say it's just about really getting out there, using PR, using different social tactics to get people to link to your content. All right, I'll take one more. And then anyone else, you can find me afterwards, but I'll take one more. I don't know. I know.
Hi, thank you. So you were mentioning that to create content that was useful to the user. What are your thoughts on having sporadically, like, some more creative pieces that might be diary style, fiction, nonfiction, more entertainment rather than something that's like a list or something?
Mm-hmm. I think having different kinds is great. Like, it's great. I think as far as SEO and search traffic, when you get to more of the essays and the personal stories and things like that, there's not a search term that will lead to that. So it's just a different strategy. It can grow your audience to know you better, and that's really important, and to turn your casual readers into loyal readers, and them to kind of connect with you differently. Having multiple different styles of writing on your blog is fine. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, cool.
All right, thank you guys so much. It was so nice to be here.